the Audacious Hot Seat. In the hot seat with us today is the amazing Julia Ewert, and I am so excited to have her here on the show because I know a lot about Julia, having helped her with some awards, but we've got some awesome things to talk about in business. Julia, I wonder if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are, where you've come from, and what you do for a business.
Thanks, Lauren. It's good to be here today, all the way from Western Australia in lockdown, given where the situation of the world is. So my name is Julia Ewert, which is also the name of my business. Please, if you're listening, I invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Julia Ewert MBA, or my website is juliaewert.com. I do two things. The first thing that I do, which gets people to go, ooh, that sounds cool, is I'm a professional negotiator, and I'm I guess, hooked into a global community of negotiators in the United States and Europe. And these people are current and ex-FBI agents. They are hostage, crisis, and terrorist negotiators. So I learn from the best. So I take the same principles and apply them to business, which is why I get hired. The second thing I do is I teach an 8-step sales process that's based on world's best practice that helps businesses and companies to convert more clients more often and for more margin.
Wow, you are right. Absolutely, Julia. When you hear your bio, it's absolutely mind-blowing what you do. I love your stories. I love the fact that people are listening to this probably right on the edge of their seats now, wanting to know more about what you are and what you do. So tell us a little bit of, were you always a good negotiator? I mean, was this something you were good at as a child? Were you always negotiating with your parents?
The answer would be no, Lauren. And it's one of the things I get asked the most about. And one of the 6 things I get asked the most about is, do you need to be a natural born salesperson, or can you learn this? So selling and negotiating, I'm sure we'll talk shortly, have very similar principles, but they can be learned. I am a learnt salesperson. I'm a learnt negotiator.
Wow. A lot of people now are breathing a big sigh of relief and thinking, thank goodness for that, because I don't like the idea of sales. I'm not a natural born salesperson, and please tell me that I'll be able to learn this, because it's not my thing. Do you think people are afraid of sales for a good reason, Julia?
The answer would be yes, because there are many, and I think a lot of us still reflecting, or the negative connotation around sales, Lauren, I think comes from those 1970s, 1980s techniques, that some of those are around tactics, tricks, manipulating. Now, they don't have a place anymore. There are definitely still companies that are spruiking these as helpful, but they're not. So what the big difference is now is that in order to sell or negotiate successfully, you need to be really, you need to be focused on connecting with the person you're speaking to, finding common ground. And there's some similar principles I'll talk about shortly. But the fear that people have around selling is I don't want to be desperate. I don't want to be pushy. And when sales is done correctly, it is none of those things anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So a negotiator and sales specialist, 2 quite different roles, but there must be some commonalities between the 2.
In order for someone to negotiate properly and successfully, or to convert clients, which is selling essentially, there are 3 common principles. And so what I learned from this global community of negotiators that I'm in, Lauren, is how to take those principles, put them into business, and help people convert more business or more clients. The 3 principles are: listen hard, ask high quality, open style questions, and follow a process. If you only have 2 of those 3 things, or one of those 3 things, you are setting yourself up to fail.
I love it. They're common sense, really, but so often people don't think about them, or they forget about that, and they just, just want to make the sale. So is there a particular type of person who's better at sales than anybody else?
Well, if I had to pick a person, I would suggest it would be an introvert, because most people think that an extrovert is the person who was a great negotiator or a great salesperson. But in my experience, and I've been doing this for 24 years, there's always exceptions to the rule, but in most part, the more extroverted someone is, the more poorly they perform as a salesperson and a negotiating partner.
And is that because they're too busy talking and not listening properly?
Essentially, yes. They're more centered on them and less on someone else. And, you know, a great phrase that I often talk about is when you're connecting with people, you want to be interested, not interesting. The extrovert is more likely to be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is hope for people who feel like they're not very, very outgoing, or they're not very, confident in themselves, that they actually could be very, very good salespeople and good negotiators as well, which is
and keep in mind that second principle I talked about is listen hard. An introvert is more inclined to listen hard because they are less inclined to want to make the conversation about themselves. So they are the ones that are more open to listening. They're better listeners, and they generally ask better questions because they want the other person to be the hero of the conversation, not them.
I love it. Those are such great tips for people in business. So, Julie, your business is going really well at the moment, but it hasn't always been the way. What are some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome?
The challenges in my business, Lauren, have been probably different to a lot of other companies that are operating, and mine are more personal challenges. So I'll share a bit about my personal situation. I'm in Perth, WA, and the world over here revolves on mining, iron ore, gold. And so my husband works in the mines. He's a geologist. We have 2 young kids. We don't have family here to help with the kids. And so my husband works FIFO, which means fly in, fly out. So he flies to work and then he flies home a week later. So it means that he's away from home 26 weeks a year. Also, he's home 26 weeks a year, which is great. So when he's away, I'm running a business. I'm keeping everything going. I'm delivering my client work. I've got 2 young kids, and keeping the dog alive and running the house. And apparently, you've got to feed your kids every day. So I'm doing all the things while he's away to try and scale my business.
I love it. So that must be something that is quite hard in terms of keeping yourself driven and motivated to do these things.
Do you know what, Lauren? Not so much. What I do is I say it's the company I run, but it's also my hobby and my greatest area of interest. I'm a junkie for what I do. I cannot get enough of it. So I'm often reading books on negotiating so I can, sharpen my own tools. I don't spend a lot of, up until recently, I haven't watched TV in a long time because the schedule I run when my husband's away is I get up early at around 5. I might do an hour of work before the kids wake up, get them ready for school. They come home from school. I'm on mum duty. They're in bed by 6:30, 6:45. I work for another couple of hours and then I go to bed about 9:30. And so I've been doing that for a really long time, but my business has got to a place now where I can, I have a bit more space to breathe, which is great. And so I've discovered TV in the last couple of months, and how good's TV? It's great, right?
Really good traits for a very successful entrepreneur to be, self-motivated, driven, loving what you do, and just making sure it happens. And like, a good entrepreneur if someone asks them about the latest crap TV show that's on and they've got no idea who's in it or what it's about because they're too busy doing more important things. So obviously you've got an amazing business, fabulous family. You've obviously done these amazing things with negotiation, with FBI agents and all sorts of incredible, exciting things as well. But what are you most proud of achieving in your life?
So I am most proud of achieving a degree as a mature age student. So I graduated about 7 years ago. I put myself through an MBA degree when I was working in my former life in corporate, and I was working about 60 hours a week corporate and then studying about 10 to 15 on top of that. And it was hard, really hard. And I'm not an academic learner. I'm not strong academically. I have strength in other areas. And so I found the learning hard, Lauren. And that was my proudest achievement. One of the reasons I did an MBA was because I didn't think I'd ever be smart enough to get a degree. So I thought, I would love to have a degree. I wonder if I could get one. And I could. So I bawled my eyes out at my graduation because I was just so proud of myself.
Brilliant. I love it. And I love that fact that, even you weren't sure that you could do it, let alone what other people might have been saying to you. It was all about proving to yourself that you could. Do you think that's an important thing in business as well, is to have that self-resilience and not listening to what other people say as well?
I don't think it's about not listening to other people. There's a great quote that I have really held on to from Brené Brown, And essentially, I'll be paraphrasing. It's, you know, when you're in business, as you would know, oh, everyone's an expert on your business. Everyone has a, hey, why don't you, or what you should do is. But she had a great quote that I've been hanging on to for a long time. That's basically essentially, don't criticize me from the cheap seats if you're not in the arena with me or you're not willing to get in the arena. So I'm actively in the arena. So I do the sales. I do all the things myself. I don't have a large team to outsource things to. I do outsource many things, but I do the sales. I do the negotiating. So I'm actively in the arena. So when you're in business, I do take advice, and I'm open for advice, but it depends who's dishing it out, and are they in the arena or not. So it's not about not listening. And I think that's one of the challenges when you start a business, that everyone has an opinion, but also when you start a business, you're hungry for the information because you just want the answer sheet. So you ask everyone, and that becomes really confusing. So it's not about not listening. I now have core people that I listen to, and I know that I also have core people who I don't listen to.
So it's about listening to the right people, isn't it? The people who are in the arena with you. What a great way to think about business. The people, I'm sure, listening to this will be taking that away with them. Now, if you are listening, this, of course, is the Audacious Hot Seat. And you can find more episodes like this at the Audacious Agency YouTube channel, and also where you find your best podcasts. Just search for the Audacious Agency Hot Seat. Julia, you've been working with the Audacious Agency for a little while now. What have you been doing with us?
Well, I had been thinking about it for a while, and I was getting some great runs on the board from my clients a while back that started, and I was thinking I would love to win an award. So although I can write well, and some of these award submissions are, 5,000 words plus, I don't fancy spending time to write 5,000 of the wrong words. So I've hired the agency to help me enter some awards. So I've entered the Australian Small Business Champion Award, which I'm a finalist, which is great. And there will be other awards that I'm going to enter off the back of this as well.
Awesome. It's nice to hear, because Annette and I know your story quite well, and we just think you would be up for so many different awards and categories. So well done. And we've got all our fingers and toes crossed for you for those Australian Small Business Champion Awards. Now, what are some of the things that you've noticed in your business, working both in negotiation and sales, that have a similarity that you might like to share with business owners to help them really understand, what is it about making sure you get it right in sales and negotiation?
Well, a part of it is that there's three principles. So if someone wants to sell more, essentially convert more clients, and they want to negotiate better, there are those three principles, which is listen hard, ask open style, good quality questions, and follow a process. A lot of businesses in my experience, Lauren, a lot of businesses in my experience actually get into, they start because they have a passion and or they have a talent, which is great. So I started, right? Probably how you started. But that passion or a talent, you don't get to do it unless you get yourself a paying client. And so there's a lot of businesses who are doing sales by accident, or they are getting in front of a prospective customer and they're doing this, which is the crossing their fingers and hoping. And I say hope is a terrible business strategy. Shocking strategy. Do not hope. That's not great. So take that out of it and follow processes, because you want to be able to forecast and plan your business. And how do you do that if you don't know how you're going to convert a client, where the client's coming from, or how long it's going to take to convert them? So this is a really crucial part of what I do. And one of my drivers, Lauren, really, really strongly is I very, very strongly want businesses to accept doing sales with the same level of acceptance as doing marketing. Every business decides when they start, well, we must do some marketing. Now, whether they're great at it or know about what it is, doesn't matter, but they accept it. They sign up knowing it's necessary. But nobody wants to talk about sales because they think, oh, we can't do sales, or can you even control sales? Is that even a thing? Because it makes them feel desperate. They don't want to feel like they're pressurizing people. And done well, sales is actually the complete opposite of that. But part of my existence or my vocation in sales is that I want this to be as accepted as marketing, because without a sales process, you will not optimize your revenue, and revenue gives the business choice.
I love it. It's so vital. You're absolutely right, Julia. So many people out there marketing, getting onto Facebook, social media, creating content, doing all these things to drive traffic. But then when they get the inquiry, they are wasting it because they do not have a process or an approach or a methodology that helps them really sell well. So if you are listening to this and you're thinking, well, I really understand what I need to do now. I've been putting all my emphasis on learning how to market myself, but how do I really convert those sales? What are some of the things that people can be thinking about in terms of setting up their own system or process to make sure that they are, not trying to reinvent the wheel each time?
Yeah. Can I just go back one step, Lauren? And the idea is that, when businesses are doing marketing and it's bringing them in leads, for example, a couple of things that I see happen is that the business says, oh, the leads aren't converting. So they think the answer is, well, we need to do more marketing. So marketing has a ratio or a communication ratio of 1 to many, one message to many, ideally your target audience. Sales is a ratio of 1 to 1. So if you've got leads coming in and your marketing is done correct, they should be qualified to a certain point. The reason you're not converting is probably because you can't sell. And that might be the cold, hard truth, but it's probably the reality. The answer is not that you need more leads. The answer is that you're not selling. It's not marketing's job to convert the leads. That's the job of sales. So business should have a repeatable process that is easy and simple to follow, that allows that starts when the lead exists and finishes when the lead converts. And it is very possible to do that without you feeling like a robot or not turning your business into a McDonald's. That's not what this is about. This is about something that allows you to have control over your business so that you have clients for life. And you never have to worry about where your next client is coming from.
I love it. That just makes life so much easier for business owners to have a process. So is that one of the things that you see most people get wrong, is they are living by hope with their sales?
Yes, they're doing sales by accident. As one of my clients, when she started working with me, called it, I'm doing the chat and hope. Chat and hope, it's a terrible strategy. And it's about changing that into a purposeful conversation that simply allows you to help someone solve a problem. And it allows you to be seen in a noisy space as the leader. And it allows you to convert more customers and more clients than any of your competitors. And there is absolutely a way that that can be done in a really relaxed way that doesn't feel pressured, that isn't no tricks, no manipulation, none of that rubbish. Just simple human connection. And there's a great way you can systemize that and make it a process, which is what I teach.
I love it. That is so awesome. Now, if you're interested in what Julia's been saying, there are links underneath this video or on the podcast to go and find out more about her business. Julia, if I could take you back and ask you, what would you say to yourself when you first started business, or what would you change, or what would you do differently? How would you approach yourself way back then when you first started? What advice would you give yourself?
Probably a couple of things. Be a few things, Lauren. So one thing that it might be a controversial statement to make, but I do not feel imposter syndrome. I've never felt that. I've always felt that this is what I'm meant to be doing, and I absolutely belong here. However, I'm also a realist. And so a part of me says that, some of the world is unpredictable. If my entire business went to hell and I never signed up a client again for the rest of my life, I always do say I will never go back and work corporate again. But the addition to that is I would never go back and work corporate again unless I have to, and then I totally will. So in the beginning, I probably would have had more of that mindset of, well, if this doesn't work, you are highly employable. You'll get a job. So that was one mindset that I think I had. But also I would have had more of the systems and processes in place. So I'm the complete opposite to probably most businesses. What I started my business on was a sales process. I got my business to a huge level of growth with simply a sales process, because the job of a sales process, that's the money machine, right? The job of marketing is to bring the leads to the door. The job of sales is to convert the leads. So I started the business using my 8-step sales process. That's world's best practice. That's what I take. That's what people hire me for. But I didn't have any marketing. So most businesses start with, oh, we must have some marketing. I had, oh, we must have a sales process. So I started on that. But in hindsight, I've now arrived and I'm doing all the things marketing. But back then, I would have started with best practice in marketing and sales.
Brilliant. Having both of those wheels of the bus working, which is really, really important. I love it. I love the fact that a big part of your background is belief in yourself and that self-confidence. Hey, I've got this. And so often in business, I think entrepreneurs worry about things that never happen. So to be able to go back and tell yourself, but don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. You're employable, more than employable. You're very successful. I love that. And I love the fact that you also can tell that itty bitty shitty committee that we often hear having a crack, just to be quiet and back off while we get the business done. If you could give some advice to businesses or business owners that are listening today on what they could do to have a bit of self-belief and confidence, but also to not be afraid of selling, what would that be?
Whenever I'm asked this question, I'm always aware of the irony, Lauren, that I sell sales. That's weird for lots of people. It's not weird for me, but it's weird for lots of people. But it is, I believe, the answer. That a couple of things. As I said, a part of my work is teaching businesses and companies to do sales in a way that's humanized, it's humble, supercharges the connections you have with your prospective customers. Get yourself a sales process. I've struggled to find anyone doing what I'm doing in terms of this space, which is a reason I'm very excited about, because every business should be selling this way. This is how I've grown my business. I'm actively in the arena. I'm doing all the things that I teach. So this is not some do as I say, not as I do. This is do as I do. I have the answer sheet, which is how I've scaled my business. But one thing that I would love to say to the listeners is, if you don't have a sales process, remember, a sales process, that's the job which will convert the leads to pay you the money. This is the key to the money. It unlocks the revenue. Have a repeatable process that you can use, and you will never, ever have to worry about where your next client is coming from. It'll change everything for you.
Absolutely. And what a no-brainer. If you've got a repeatable system, all that worry and stress just goes away. So I love it. That's brilliant. Julia, it's been an absolute pleasure to interview you. I know we've had some technical issues with our interview today, and I really appreciate your time and to be talking with you about such important, basic foundational business that people need to understand, but also to get really good at those three core things: listening hard, really asking the great questions, and having a process in your business for converting. So love it. I love the fact that you are living your brand. You've got such great confidence and your skills are amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show. Again, if you want to get in touch with Julia to find out about how she can maybe help your business and look at the processes that she has, the links are underneath this video and in the podcast. I please encourage you, go and talk to Julia, find out about her, follow her on social media and learn from her so that your business can absolutely take off. Julia, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Is there any final word that you'd like to share with our audience before we go?
It's just been great to be along today, Lauren. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to your listeners and hope I can open their eyes more about why sales is so essential.
Absolutely. It's so vital. Have sales and marketing hand in hand and you'll be away. I love it. Thank you so much for being here on the hot seat, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thanks, Lauren.